Hi, I'm Matt, and welcome to my latest gaming news video. I'll be covering recent gaming news as well as some other gaming related things in this video. I'm grateful for any feedback, so if you feel the need to do so, please leave a comment below. You can also like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. I'll now get into some gaming news from the past week or so. So the first couple bits I will cover today will be Starfield related. The game has now released to the masses, you could say, although it was already out if you purchased the premium version of the game, which allowed early access to the game on the 1st of September. But now the game is fully released. It released on the 6th of September to those who purchased the standard version of the game or who have it through Game Pass. I haven't played it yet, as I mentioned in my previous video. I have it preloaded, but I'm waiting to finish Armored Core 6 before I get into Starfield. From what I can tell of the game so far, it looks like it is receiving generally positive reviews on PC and Xbox. I will cover some review scores and how it's faring on Steam. I shall start with Metacritic scores for Starfield. The last time I checked, Starfield had a Metascore of 87 for the PC, based upon 53 critic reviews. On the Xbox Series X, the game had a Metascore of 86, based upon 58 critic reviews. So yeah, those are pretty decent scores, I'd say. These are similar to Fallout 4, which scored 84, 87, and 88 on the PC, PS4, and Xbox One, respectively. Although Fallout 4's user scores are lower, around the 6 or 7 range. I will say I really enjoyed Fallout 4. I went back and played through it this year, and yeah, I still think it's a pretty good game. Maybe not as good as New Vegas in some aspects, but it's still really good. As for the user score on Metacritic, at the time of checking, user scores weren't enabled. I believe they would be enabled by now, by the time this video has come out, and they should have went live at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on September the 7th. But we can get some user feedback for the game on Steam, which I will now get into. When I checked, Starfield had a very positive review rating on Steam, with 83% of around 22,000 reviews being positive. I would say that it's quite good. I was expecting it to be a bit lower, given the game has some performance issues on PC at the moment, from what I've seen. The issues don't seem to be game breaking or anything, but I have I thought the score would be a bit lower due to complaints of like poor optimization, things like that. There have already been game-specific drivers from AMD, Nvidia, and Intel, something I covered in my last tech news video, and these drivers seem to have boosted FPS and eliminated some issues with the game. Hopefully, as the game matures, we'll see more updates from Bethesda that improve the game's performance more, as well as more driver optimizations. I think they've probably got a bit they can still do to squeeze out some more performance from the game. Player count for the game seemed to have peaked at around 270,000. This is a decent amount lower than Baldur's Gate 3's peak of around 800,000, but I sort of expected this as the PC user base is split between Steam and Microsoft's PC Xbox app, which is the storefront slash app, I guess, you use to play it on PC with Game Pass, or if you buy it through that app and play it on the PC app. Starfield is also on the Xbox Series consoles, whereas Baldur's Gate was not on PS5 at release. So yeah, maybe that's why its peak's lower. I am looking forward to checking the game out soon. Haven't watched too much on the game. I did watch G-Man Live's review of the game. He likes the game, so that's good to know. Starfield looks good, but does need some updating to performance some more. But yeah, I think generally overall, yeah, looking good. Now onto some Starfield modding news. I had previously covered Starfield modding in another gaming news video. Now the game has the Script Extender mod. Script Extender is also a mod in Skyrim, where it's called Skyrim Extender SKSE. The version of the mod for Starfield is called, as you may have guessed, Starfield Script Extender SFSE. Script Extender mods are very useful to modders. They allow much more freedom to mod the game by allowing more complex scripting capabilities and functionality. The SFSE mod was created by Ian Patterson and Stephen Abel, and Ian actually helped create the Skyrim script extender mod. I have very little experience in creating any mods. I made the odd mod for random games, but it was just usually color swaps and basic things along those lines. But if you're someone who regularly creates game mods for Bethesda games or any game really, then you'll likely know how important the Starfield script extender mod will become in the future. There are a few mods already out for Starfield, but with the SFSE, I don't know, I can lose my words a bit today. A lot more complex mods will be able to be created. I suspect now it is available, modders will be working on more advanced mods for Starfield. One caveat though, SFSE works with the Steam version of the game, but annoyingly not the Windows Store / Xbox app version of the game, which is the version required to play Starfield with Game Pass. It doesn't work with the Epic Store version either. I am hoping it might work someday with the other versions, but this is unlikely given how locked down the Xbox app for Windows is. And I'm not sure about the Epic Store version. Although Microsoft have confirmed mods will come to the Xbox and PC app versions, but it's uncertain how extensive these will be. Likely not as sort of intricate and complex as mods made with SFSE. But yeah, who knows what will be made? Microsoft Pete Hines had previously said that players will be able to add their own planets through modding, so there's likely a huge amount more modding variety that the Starfield script extender will allow. I may cover some intriguing mods in the future, as in sort of when they're published or uploaded. Because yeah, I do expect there to be some pretty wild mods. Before we move on from Bethesda, I will cover a game that Bethesda is publishing. Going by recently what Todd Howard had said, an Indiana Jones game is in development by Machine Games, who had previously made the more modern Wolfenstein games like New Order and Old Blood. Todd Howard, who is the director and executive producer at Bethesda Game Studio, is also an executive producer on this new Indiana Jones game. He commented on the upcoming game recently. During an interview with Esquire, Todd said, quote, "I'm a giant Indiana Jones fan." He went on to say that it can be brought to video games in a unique way. The game is obviously you're exploring stuff. It's about him. So if you're playing the game, how do you feel that you're indeed playing versus just watching? So going by what was said in the article, Todd was not allowed to divulge any more info yet and was quoted as saying, "We'll talk next year." Last year, he also said that the upcoming game is a quote mashup. It is a unique. It isn't one thing intentionally, so it does a lot of different things. Yeah, I had not actually heard of a new Indiana Jones game until now. I know there are some older 90s PC and 2000s PS2 era games, but I've not played them. I think this, yeah, could be quite cool. I'm kind of thinking there'll be like the Uncharted or Tomb Raider games, which would be a good thing, I guess. At least I think anyway. Maybe it will be like them, but with its own twist. I guess we'll just have to wait until next year to find out more details on that. On to some bad news next. Bad and sad, I guess. The game studio behind the Saints Row franchise, among other games, Volition, has been shut down. Embracer Group, who's the parent company of Volition, has decided to shut the studio down as part of restructuring, and the decision is effective immediately, going by what was said. Volition had recently celebrated their 30th anniversary, and now this news has been announced. I will put up an image of the post that they shared on LinkedIn. The main part detailing the closures said that, quote, "This past June, Embracer Group announced a restructuring program to strengthen and maintain its position as a leader in the video game industry. As part of that program, they have evaluated strategic and operational goals and made the difficult decision to close Volition effective immediately." They also went on to say that they will be providing job assistance to employees who are now seeking employment elsewhere. The decision to close Volition will affect approximately 340 people, going by the studio's most recent employment numbers. So yeah, some rough news. Hopefully all the employees can land on their feet and move into new employment as quickly as possible. I know that the most recent Saints Row, which is basically a reboot, I think it did really bad, but I wasn't expecting this to happen. Not good news at all for the employees. I wish them the best. Looks like the most recent Saints Row, and more specifically its sales performance and reception, may have been the reason for Volition's closure, or the main reason. From what I can tell, the game didn't sell too well, and going by the general reception to the game, it was not a well-liked game. If we take a look at the Metacritic, the game had a Metascore of between 61 and 65, depending on the platform, and a user score of between 2.3 and 2.9, again depending on the platform. So yeah, those are pretty poor scores. I haven't played the game. I have watched reviews on it, but yeah, may give it a go in the future just to see how it is like firsthand. And yeah, I am a fan of the old games. I played the first game, Saints Row 2 and 3, though I mostly played Saints Row 2 back in the day on the Xbox 360. And yeah, I did play a bit of Saints Row 3 on PC a while ago through Steam. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see another Saints Row game for many years, if we ever see one again. I think it would be cool if they remastered the first three games, but I have no details, no info on that. But yeah, that would be quite cool, especially the second one. I think a lot of people really liked the second one probably the most. But yeah, we will have to see if a new Saints Row ever comes out, because yeah, it is a bit concerning. Now on to some gaming event news. Pax West 2023 has recently concluded. I won't cover the entire event, but we'll briefly cover some games that interested me from the event. And as always, I will be putting footage and images up of the game I'm talking about. First up is Dungeons of Hinterberg. The game is a fantasy RPG that has a nice stylized comic book art style, a bit like Jet Set Radio, but different. The game looks pretty cool, and the gameplay has you exploring the game's world and its dungeons. The game was announced earlier this year at the Xbox showcase during the Summer Games Fest, which I covered, but I didn't notice this game until now. The game looks like it's set in a modern or near future world that's somewhat novel, I feel, a near future RPG with dungeon and fantasy elements that uses a comic art style. It's got a lot going on there. The game has no specific release date, only details on the Steam page 2024 sort of time frame. Dungeons of Hinterberg is coming to PC and Xbox Series consoles, and it looks like it will be available on Game Pass as well. Quite an interesting one next, actually, including for the reason that it is getting an NES release as well as a release on modern systems. The game is Rugrats Adventures in Gameland, so a new Rugrats game. That's pretty cool. I've played a couple of the PS1 Rugrats games, mainly Search for Reptar. So yeah, this is cool to see, although this new one is 2D, as you might expect, given that it is releasing on the NES. The modern console versions will include a HD mode, giving you the option to switch the game's visuals to look more, I guess, modern, but still in the 2D cartoon look. It look very similar to the cartoon show. The game does look quite cool. I'd like to give it a try someday. It is also being published physically by Limited Run Games, a company I've covered before. Go check their website, they do some really cool physical game editions. Like the Gex remix being published by Limited Run Games, Rugrats Adventures in Gameland doesn't have a release date. It will be getting releases on the PC, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PS4, PS5, Switch, and of course, as I mentioned, the NES. And the final PAX West 2023 game today is Cobalt Core. This is a 2D pixel art sci-fi roguelike deck builder. I'm not really into card games or deck builders, but this does look quite cool. It does look a bit like FTL, faster than light, and it is also set mostly in space, so it would seem by what was shown. Graphically, the game looks nice, and the pixel characters and ships, etc., look all good. The game's developer, Rocket Rat Games, has also made a somewhat similar looking game called Sunshine Heavy Industries, which is very positively reviewed on Steam with 98% of 274 reviews being positive, so that's good to know. They've made a decent game in the past. If you like their other game, Cobalt Core will likely be a game to check out. It is releasing for the PC later this year. I believe the Steam page says 2023, and going by the article, it is also coming out on consoles, although I couldn't find definitive evidence for that. Now for some honourable mentions from the event, and they are Big Boy Boxing, Foam Stars, Mina the Hollower, and For the King 2. So yeah, that's PAX West 2023. There's plenty more, but I will put the link to the article that covered them, in the description. But yeah, now I shall get back into the more general gaming news. Now for some Sony and PlayStation news. Sony has decided to raise the price of PlayStation Plus by up to 35%, depending on the version of the service you decide to purchase, and I guess the region you're in. This month, prices for the 12-month subscription plan for all three PS Plus tiers will be going up. The cost will be going up depending on upon region. The prices will be coming into place on the 6th of September, so they should have, or I guess by the time this video comes up, already come out. The increases of each tier in the US, price will increase in the US by some 33%, in Europe by around 20%. I'll add a screenshot of the new pricing layout, but for comparison in USD, PlayStation Plus Essentials tier will go from $60 to $80 a year. PS Plus Extra tier will go from $100 to $135 a year. And finally, the PS Plus Premium tier will go from $120 to $160 a year. The price increase, as mentioned, are different for certain regions, with the US receiving the biggest bump in cost from what I could tell. As with services like this, you usually get a discount when buying for an entire year, and the 12-month subscription plan discount for PS Plus will still be a thing, just with the new upped pricing. If paying monthly, the service will cost $10 for the Essentials tier, $15 for the Extra tier, and $18 for the Premium tier. So you do still receive a discount by going with the 12-month plan, but this price increase, it's not great. According to Sony Interactive Entertainment's Director of Content Acquisition and Operations, Adam Michel, the price increases will, quote, enable us to continue bringing high-quality games and value-added benefits to your PlayStation Plus subscription service. From what I've seen, these price increases are being blasted by the gaming community, and I think fairly so. I think the situation has been made worse by how abruptly the announcement of the price changes were. Microsoft had also increased Game Pass and Series X pricing recently. Game Pass Ultimate had received a price increase of, I believe, $2 a month, and Console Game Pass increased by $1 a month. So both companies are deciding to increase costs, which isn't great. Maybe they will decide to reduce price in the future, but this, I feel, is unlikely. It looks like these prices will be here to stay. Next up, some Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty details. This is in regard to which features will be exclusive to the DLC and which will be free with the 2.0 update. Phantom Liberty will be the first major DLC for Cyberpunk 2077. It is coming on September 26th and currently costs $30 or £25. The DLC is aiming to improve many aspects of the game and hopefully will be worth the cost and be full of worthwhile content. Going by what CD Projekt have said, Phantom Liberty will be overhauling the main core of the systems of the game, which sounds good to me if it is done right and implemented right. We'll drop images in showing what is going to be included for free and what is included if you pay for the expansion. The free bits will be included, as I said, with Update 2.0 of the base game. Starting with Update 2.0, the free update will include the following things: redesigned skill trees and perks, revamped cyberware and new capacity system, vehicle combat and car chases, combat AI improvements, a new police system, UI and UX improvements, loot items and crafting changes, and new radio stations, including community radio station Growl FM. If you get Phantom Liberty, you will, as well as the free stuff, get Dogtown, a dangerous new district, a brand new storyline and characters, new quests, gigs, boss fights, and more, vehicle missions and airdrops, endless dynamic events, all new relic skill tree and abilities, 100 plus new items, weapons, cyberware, cars and fashion, vehicle missile launcher, and a level cap increase to 60. There may be a few other things, but I think those are generally the main things. So, on a related note, CD Projekt Red has said that Phantom Liberty will likely be the game's only expansion, and that this is mainly because the studio has decided to switch to Unreal Engine 5 for all future games. I'm guessing that they just wanted to focus their dev time on working in that engine going forward, instead of using their in-house Red engine, which is the engine for Cyberpunk and The Witcher 3. Now for some Final Fantasy XVI news. I had covered Final Fantasy XVI in a previous video, and the game has received a pretty good reception so far, although apparently the game didn't live up to Square Enix's expectations sale-wise, because I guess, of course, it didn't. The game has a Metascore of 87, which is based on 143 critic reviews, and has a user score of 8.1, which is based on 8,465 ratings. So yeah, it does seem like a good game in the long run in franchise. Currently, the game is only out for the PS5, but yeah, this will change in the future, and I'll sort of cover that now. Recently, Naoki Yoshida, the game's producer, said that, quote, finally, while Final Fantasy XVI was released as a PlayStation 5 exclusive, we are aware that many of you have been asking for a PC version, so allow me to take this opportunity to officially announce that development on a PC version is currently underway. He also said that, quote, I hope to be able to give you more information on both the upcoming DLC and the PC version before the end of the year, so please stay tuned. So yeah, the game is receiving a PC port and 2 DLC expansions. I'm guessing that PC Final Fantasy fans will be happy with that announcement, and fans of the games will be happy there are two DLCs incoming for the game. With more information coming before the end of the year, I don't think these will release before the end of the year, but likely next year, 2024. I would like to try out one of the Final Fantasy games, maybe 15, or maybe this new one as well, as I haven't played any of them properly before. No sign of an Xbox release for the game, but the game is a PS5 exclusive for 6 months. Maybe they will announce an Xbox port once that exclusivity agreement is up, but yeah, not quite sure. We'll just see a PC port, I'd imagine, first. On some more DLC related news next, there does seem to be a fair bit of DLC game expansion coverage today. The Legend of Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma has said that there are no plans for any upcoming expansions for Tears of the Kingdom. Speaking to the Japanese publication Famitsu, Eiji Aonuma said that, quote, at this time we are not planning to release additional content. We feel like we have already fully explored and exhausted the gameplay possibilities in this world. He continued, quote, initially the reason we decided to develop a sequel was because we believed there was still value in experiencing new gameplay within that particular Hyrule. If in the future we find a compelling reason, we may revisit that world once again. Whether it's another sequel or an entirely new title, I believe the next game will offer a completely new experience. I hope you'll look forward to that, or to it. So a bit of a long quote there. So the likelihood of Tears of the Kingdom receiving an expansion are rare, at least going by what Aonuma has said so far. Don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. If this is their final vision for the game and they feel it has enough content, then I'm fine with that. And I think fans of the game, from what I've seen, is very well received game. So I think I would imagine they'd be okay with that. The previous mainline Zelda game, though, Breath of the Wild, did have 2 DLCs, and these were the Master Trials and the Champion's Ballad. Going by what the article said, Tears of the Kingdom was actually originally planned to be a large DLC for Breath of the Wild, but after so much was added, they decided to create an entirely new game and to make that game the sequel to Breath of the Wild. I do really want to play both games someday, but I don't think that'll be anytime soon. But yeah, I definitely, they're great games from what I've heard, from reviews and things I've watched, and the reception around the general latest 2 games, is and all I guess all the Zelda games in general, but the latest 2, definitely 2 I do want to try out. The final bit of general gaming news for today, before we move on to the upcoming game section, is news that the new Alone in the Dark game has had its release date pushed back. I had covered this game in a previous video as it was shown off at the THQ Nordic event I think it was a few weeks ago. I'm really liking the game. It has some Resident Evil 2 remake vibes, and it's actually a remake, or should I say a reimagining of the original Alone in the Dark from 1992. We'll put some footage up of both games, new and old. From what I've seen, it does look pretty good. So it's a game I'm looking forward to. The new Alone in the Dark. The game was originally going to release in October of this year. Maybe it was targeted for a release that month, as is a spooky game, I guess. But the game's publisher, THQ Nordic, has decided to push the release date back until next year, and more specifically, January 16th. THQ Nordic made this announcement via the game's official Twitter account, or X account. The post read, quote, "Horror games thrive on the eerie embrace of solitude, something that is impossible to achieve in a gaming month as busy as October. To ensure a breathtaking experience for everyone, we have made the decision to move the release of hashtag Alone in the Dark to January 16th, 2024. But yeah, from what I've seen, the game looks quite polished, but maybe these extra few months of development will allow the developers Pieces Interactive to improve the polish or maybe even add content or tweak existing content. I feel it is usually best if a game is delayed, especially said game needs more development, they have more time to develop. But this doesn't actually seem to be the case with Alone in the Dark anyway. But yeah, just in general, I think if a game needs to be pushed back, it needs to be pushed back. But yeah, from all the stuff I've seen regarding the game, the footage and things, it does look generally finished and fine. So, but yeah, and yeah, I'm yeah definitely looking forward to this game. It does look really cool. Really interested to try it out at some point. Now into the upcoming games section. So nothing quite as big as Starfield in this week's upcoming game section. But there's still some interesting releases that I will cover now. And as always, there will be footage and images of the games covered. The first game in today's upcoming game section is Myth Force. Myth Force is a first-person melee roguelite as described by its developers. The game does look pretty cool. Graphically is going for a cartoon aesthetic. As the developers say, quote, "Inspired by beloved Saturday morning cartoons, Myth Force unites swords and sorcery with gripping first-person combat in a new roguelike adventure." Yeah, it does look like it's quite inspired by that sort of era of cartoons like He-Man and the likes. Yeah, it does fit quite well. It looks good. It is quite detailed. The way they've done it, the 2D cartoon art looks good in the 3D environments. There are 4 characters to play as, and co-op does seem quite prominent in the game, although I'd imagine you can play it solo with AI companions. The game is made by Beamdog, who have mostly done ports, remasters, and enhanced editions of games from what I could tell, including the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 enhanced editions, Planescape Torment enhanced edition, and Neverwinter Nights enhanced edition, among some others. They also made by looks of it, a grand strategy game, Axis and Allies 1942 Online, which is based on the board game of the same name, minus the online bit. But yeah, Myth Force looks like their first sort of in-house IP-based game. Game looks to feature a lot of dungeon crawling and similar fantasy RPG elements, including fighting all sorts of enemies and monsters. The combat looks good, and yeah, I like the way they've done the attack and sort of death animations. It's all quite fitting given the game's art direction. Myth Force is releasing on the 12th of September and is coming to the PC, current and last gen consoles, and also the Nintendo Switch. I did just realise that the game is already in early access on the Epic Game Store, where it has a review score of 4.5, which, yeah, I guess points to it being a decent game. Next up in today's upcoming game section is The Crew Motorfest. This game will be the latest installment in Ubisoft's The Crew series, a series of open world, I guess, racing games. Yeah, I guess they're kind of like the Forza Horizon games, but with their own unique take on the open world racing genre. I still think my favourite open world racing games were the 2 most recent Test Drive games, the Test Drive Limited and its sequel, Test Drive Limited 2. Went through the first game, Test Drive Limited, just Test Drive Limited, not the second one, a few months back, and it still holds up, I feel. I used to play a lot of both of these older games back on the Xbox 360, but I think I also played Test Drive Unlimited 2 on PC. But yeah, there's actually a new game in the series coming, Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, and I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, anyway, back to the Crew Motorfest. I've not played any of the Crew games, but they look okay. They look fine. The first game, titled simply The Crew, got very average reviews when it released in 2014, and so did The Crew 2 when it released in 2018. So I don't think they're amazing games going by the reviews, but I could be wrong. As I said, I've not played any of them. The latest game in the franchise is soon to be released. The Crew Motorfest will be set like the Test Drive Unlimited games, at least partially, were in Hawaii and more specifically on the island of Oahu. The game will be releasing on the 14th of September and will be releasing on the PC as well as current and last gen consoles. On the PC, the game is only available through the Ubisoft store, so I guess their app, or the Epic Game Store. Whether it will be a Steam release eventually, yeah, I'm not sure. Now onto a World War One horror game, and the game is Ad Infinitum. This game looks like it will be a psychological survivor horror game in first person. It does look interesting, and as mentioned, it is set during World War One, like the most recent Amnesia game, I believe, which I covered in a previous video. Ad Infinitum does look more fantasy horror than the most recent Amnesia game, with its many sort of wild-looking enemies. If you're more into nightmarish horror, then Ad Infinitum is looking like a horror game you might want to check out. I'm not usually into these more nightmarish psychological horror games, where it's hard to, I guess, sort of tell dream from reality, but the game does look quite cool. On the Steam page, a part of the description reads, quote, "Will the nightmare of the war ever end? Will you find inner peace one day? In Ad Infinitum, you play as a German soldier haunted by the horrors of the Great War, while your mind grapples with memories of your family home and the trenches on the front. You try to break the endless cycle of suffering." Next, it also says that, quote, "You wake up in your bedroom unchanged from your teenage years in a rundown and deserted manor house. Suddenly and inexplicably, you are transported to the trenches, where the horrors of war are overshadowed by vile and even more terrifying creatures. Unable to distinguish between reality and the nightmare, you must fight to regain control of your life's narrative." So, maybe the game isn't set entirely in World War One, but it is the main area where gameplay takes place by the looks. And the game does seem to be a very psychological, sort of horror-based game. I may try someday, but isn't the type of horror game I usually play, I guess. Ad Infinitum is releasing on the 14th of September for the PC as well as current and last gen consoles. From what I can tell, consoles as well. If you're into psychological horror games, it's a game you might want to check out. The next game, or I guess games, are two HD remasters of classic GameCube games. So this is a bundle, I believe. If you get them both, the games are sort of bundled together in their own 1 and 2 remaster. The remasters are for the Baton Kaitos games. Both games are included, yeah, as I mentioned, in the Baton Kaitos 1 and 2 HD remaster. From my checking of the Wikipedia pages for the original games, the first game is called Baton Kaitos Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean. The second game is Baton Kaitos Origins. I've not played either games, but going by what I've read, they were well received games when they released for the GameCube and are beloved classics. I may try them both someday. They do look interesting. They're both RPG card games, and this remaster will bring them to a modern system, the Switch. I suspect the GameCube versions still hold up quite well, but I do feel it is nice to have an updated version as well. I would say that graphically, the original games still look fine, and they kind of remind me of Fantasy Star Online, specifically the GameCube version, Fantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2, which still looks okay to me even today. Although Baton Kaitos games, I believe, combine action and turn-based battle combat systems, so a bit different. If you're into older RPGs from the GameCube, PS2, Xbox era, then yeah, this is likely a HD remaster you're going to want to check out. As far as I can tell, the games are largely unchanged. Baton Kaitos 1 and 2 HD remaster is releasing on the 14th of September and is coming solely to the Nintendo Switch. I think it would be cool if they released a PC or PlayStation or Xbox version, but I'm doubtful that'll happen, but it could be Strive. Maybe later they will. But yeah, it looks like these was an original sort of Nintendo GameCube series, so maybe it's sort of stay to Nintendo consoles. Final game in today's upcoming game section is Wandering Sword. Wandering Sword is a Chinese martial arts RPG where you play as a young swordsman. Also looks like combat is turn-based. Pixel graphics art style for this game is very nice. It looks rather impressive. It's the type of high fidelity pixel graphics that is seamlessly blended into a 3D world. It does look really great. Interestingly, the game was made in Unreal Engine 4. I wasn't expecting a game in Unreal Engine 4 looking like this. So yeah, that's cool. The map and environments, yeah, they look great, and the 3D world is apparently vast and looks very detailed, rich, and lush. Are sort of two words that come to mind. Part of the description reads, quote, "Journey through over 75 breathtaking locations across 5 diverse regions, each echoing the richness and allure of ancient China's tradition and landscape. Explore a world filled with bustling ancient Chinese towns, scenic mountains, picturesque rivers, dangerous layers, treacherous terrains, and more. As I mentioned, the combat is turn-based, but also I think tile-based, going by the videos I've watched, and the animation for the combat look pretty good. There's some really nice effects and animation. Exploration of the map is looking like it'll be very satisfying, which is something I enjoy in these games, or types of games, and games in general, I guess. Story seems to be a heavy focus of the game too, with the Steam page detailing quote, delve into an immersive wuxia adventure with Wandering Sword, boasting multiple endings shaped by your choices you make and a plethora of side quests that supplement the main storyline. Enjoy over 20 hours of engaging gameplay that promises high replayability and a fresh experience with each adventure. Game is looking looking rather nice. I do want to try more pixel games like Wandering Sword and Sea of Stars, which recently released. So I'll be keeping an eye on this game. If you're into those types of games, I would definitely recommend that you take a look at Wandering Sword. Wandering Sword is currently only coming to PC as far as I can tell, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a console version come at a later date. I could definitely see it getting a Switch release, if anything. And it is actually releasing on the 15th of September on Steam. That is all the games covered for the upcoming section. Now on to the game deal section, where I will be picking some game deals that I think are good. These games will generally be games that I've played, but not always. And as is commonplace now, I will add footage and images of the games that I cover here. The first gaming deal in this week's video are 2 games, Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2, more specifically the enhanced and definitive versions, respectively. I do have Divinity, Original Sin 2, but haven't played it yet. Plan to at some point, but like Baldur's Gate 3, I'm going to need a less busy gaming release window so I can really get fully into the game. And speaking of Baldur's Gate 3, the Divinity games are actually developed, I think all of them are, I'm not quite sure, and published by Larian Studios as well, with the Divinity Original Sin games being Larian's most recent games before Baldur's Gate 3. And as you may expect, the Original Sin games share some things in common with the Baldur's Gate games, specifically the newer Baldur's Gate 3, I guess. Both games are fantasy RPGs like Baldur's Gate 3 and are very content-rich games with lots of customization and things to do. Both games are also very well reviewed, with Original Sin 2 being better reviewed than the first game. Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition has a very positive review rating on Steam, with 83% of recent reviews being positive and 89% of overall reviews being positive. Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition also has a very positive review rating on Steam, with 93% of recent reviews being positive and 95% of overall reviews being positive. So they are both held in high regard by gamers. Both games are on sale on Steam, I believe just Steam when I checked, with Original Sin being 70% off and Original Sin 2 being 60% off. The other versions of both games, which come with the older Divinity games, are also on sale, although with lesser discounts. These are just the bundled versions with some of the older Divinity games. You can also get both games in the Divinity Original Sin The Source Saga bundle, and this bundle is 76% off. These discounts last until the 11th of September. Now for a game I've actually played and played quite a lot. That game is Kerbal Space Program, or KSP, I might refer to that parts in the video. Yeah, which is a game I really love. I'm looking forward to KSP 2, but I will say it's currently in early access and has a mostly negative to mixed review rating, so that's pretty bad. From what I can tell, the community is not happy with the direction of KSP 2 is the sort of direction it's going. I'm hoping the game is fixed because, as I said, I love Kerbal Space Program. So I obviously, I guess, want the second one to do well. In Kerbal Space Program, KSP, you're basically in control of a space program on the fictional world of Kerbin, which is inhabited by the Kerbals. The game has you build all manner of vehicles, satellites, space stations, rovers, planes, rockets, etc., and many other things. Yeah, you can really build a huge amount of things in the game, and it's full of stuff to do. Your imagination can sort of run wild. You can play the game with sort of more campaign-based career or science modes, or you can play the sandbox mode with sort of no restraints. The latter is the mode I've mostly played. The game's physics are based on realistic aerodynamics and orbital mechanics, so yeah, that's cool. You would want that for a space game, I'd imagine. It is a really deep game once you get the hang of it, but due to how deep it is, the game is also very complex, especially if you plan on doing space missions further away from Kerbin. I spent a lot of time just sort of figuring things out, and once I was more experienced with the game, it got even better. I will say it is one of my favorite games ever. When I get into it, really enjoy it, and I'm planning on get back into it again, as I haven't played it in a little while. The game also has extensive mod support. Base game is fine, but mods really give KSP a boost. If we look at reviews for the game on Steam, KSP is very positively reviewed, with 94% of recent reviews being positive. I was kind of hoping that KSP 2 would replace this game at some point and just improve on every aspect and increase the scope. Um, Although, given its current reception, I am concerned for KSP 2. One cool thing about KSP 2 was that there would be interesting travel, or sorry, interstellar travel. KSP, for comparison, is confined to a single, albeit huge, solar system, the Kerbal system. Just to add, there is actually a mod for interstellar travel in the original game called KSP Interstellar Extended, I believe. So, yeah, in conclusion, KSP is a great game, one of my favourites. If you like the look of it, definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. Kerbal Space Program is on sale until the 11th of September and is 75% off until then. The complete edition is also on sale with a discount of 71% off. This includes the game's DLC expansions. For what I can tell, it is also discounted on GOG, and Xbox with similar discounts on those storefronts. And the final deal for today is for the Outlast games. The Outlast series of games are first-person horror games. The first game, titled Outlast, and its DLC Whistleblower are really great. Outlast is definitely one of my favourite horror games, and the Whistleblower DLC is also very good. I haven't played the second game, but do now have it. In both games, you can't fight back, you have to run or hide, and usually the decision on which course of action to take is sort of on the fly. Speaking from experience with the first game and its DLCs, the games are quite scary at points. In the first game, you play as an investigative journalist, Miles Upshur, who must break into an asylum and figure out what is going on. It is a really interesting story, and the gameplay is intense while also very good. This was a very popular game when it came out almost exactly 10 years ago. If you've ever played it before, or if you've never played it before rather, I'd highly recommend it. The second game, going by reviews, is also a very good game, and I plan on playing for it. I may go back through the first game and its DLC, and then get into Outlast 2. If we take a look at Steam reviews, Outlast, the first game, has an overwhelmingly positive review rating, with 97% of recent reviews being positive on Steam. The Whistleblower DLC's reviews are also very good, with 96% of recent Steam reviews being positive. And finally, Outlast 2 scores a little lower, with 90% of recent reviews being positive. So, as you can tell by the reviews on Steam, all the games in the series are very highly regarded. And given my experience with the first game and its DLC, I would agree with the positive reviews. It is a great horror game. Both Outlast games and the first game's DLC are on sale until the 11th of September and have a discount of 85% off. You can also buy the Outlast Trinity Bundle, which includes the lot and is 88% off. The deals are on Steam and GOG. Just a quick bit before we sort of wrap up. A new game in the series, The Outlast Trials, released earlier this year, but that isn't on sale. It's still in early access and is a co-op horror game. It can be played solo though. I haven't played it yet, but we'll likely try in the future. And that actually does have a very positive review rating on Steam, so that's good to know. Now on to the video spotlight before we wrap up. This week is a spotlight for an upcoming game called The Last Exterminator. I won't say too much, definitely check the video, which will be linked in the description. But it's an old school FPS where you are fighting bug or insect aliens, and it looks really cool actually, really nice looking art style and things. So go check that out. I will link it in the description. That's all the game coverage from me today. I will be publishing a tech news video tomorrow, so check back for that if you're interested. As always, feedback is appreciated, so go ahead and like or dislike and leave a comment. If you enjoy my videos and commentary, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back again soon.